I was hoping to have a jar left on the pantry shelf to use as my prop to show you what we were making today. But it turns out I don't. I am flat out and I am long overdue to get this made. So you're just gonna have to wait till the end to see how it looks. Welcome to Garden Reserve. I'm Carter and I'm so glad you're here today. We are gonna make taco seasoned ground beef. And I say it that way for a reason because I don't want you to think of it, and I call it taco meat, but don't think of it just for tacos. We use it for so many different things: enchiladas, burritos, taco salad, taco soup, a taco bake like a lasagna with some corn tortillas and cheese, and maybe you put refried beans in there, sour cream, absolutely delicious. The 7-layer dip, with the guacamole and the sour cream and the cheese and the beans and the taco meat. I don't know if I got all 7 layers, but anyway, you get the plan. Nachos are super easy. Just throw those in a cast iron skillet or in a dish. Put the chips in there, put the taco seasoned meat on top, and then add your cheese or jalapenos or whatever you want to put on it. Throw it under the broiler. Less than 10 minutes, it's done, and then you can put your toppings on it. So David usually chooses to have his as a taco salad. So I just heat up the meat and put it on top of a green salad with lots of peppers. And I don't usually have sour cream, but I always have guacamole and salsa and that kind of stuff. And he loves that. I like mine just in a bowl with some guacamole and some cheese and some hot sauce and some salsa. To me, that's just terrific. I don't need chips or anything. So if you've been around here a long time, you know that I like to keep a lot of, neutral, I guess, meats. It's the best way to say it, plain meats, so that I can take them in any kind of different direction. I can go Italian, I can go American, I can go Mexican, I can go Chinese in some cases. I can do all kinds of different dishes with just some plain ground beef that I have in there. But I don't find this taco seasoned beef limiting at all because there are so many options, and it makes those options, those particular options for which I would want taco seasoned meat, so much quicker and less messy. I don't have an extra pan. I don't have anything extra that I have to do except open the jar, pour it in, add the other stuff, and maybe throw it under the broiler or mix up a salad to go with it, and it's done. That to me is absolutely worth keeping on the shelf as just plain taco seasoned meat. So that's what we're going to do today. This is going to be more method than recipe because, my taco meat kind of looks different every time, really, based on what I happen to have. So there are a couple of key ingredients, ground beef, of course. I am using 93.7 today, so I'm not going to worry about the fat left in here. If you're using an 85-15 or an 80-20, you'll probably want to mid-cook on the meat, drain off the fat, and then just leave the remaining fat after that as you continue to cook it down a little bit. I do like some fat to be in my jar when I go to can it, because that way when I go to use it, I could just dump the jar and there's already plenty of its own fat that it can cook in. And I don't have to worry about adding extra bacon grease or lard or avocado oil or whatever to the pan. It is ready to go and cook exactly the way it is. So I don't get freaky about fat in a jar. To me, that's a plus. But you don't want a whole jar filled with fat, or you're just going to end up with a greasy taco. So the other thing we're going to need is some sort of taco seasoning. Now that just depends how you do it. Maybe you just kind of pull things out of the spice shelf and dump them in, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. You can make your own taco seasoning. You can use, I love this little one from Trader Joe's. I always keep some of these in my pantry. And then you can get this one from Costco, I guess that came from. So I'm actually going to use this one today because I'm doing 5 pounds of meat and I need about a little over half a cup for that. So I'm going to use this one. I would normally probably use this one, but I don't have enough packages. On the meat, I'm going to use 5 pounds today. I actually thought I had 6 pounds in my freezer, but turned out I only had 5. Let's talk about other add-ins that we can have. You can add a couple of jars of salsa if you want, and that's often, if I was cooking this just from scratch, I had some ground beef, say, sitting in the fridge that needed to get used and I was going to turn it into taco meat, I might just dump in some salsa along with the taco seasoning. You can add a bunch of green chilies. Those are fantastic. You can use a can or two of Rotel. You can use just regular diced tomatoes. You can use fresh or frozen peppers, hot or sweet. You can add onions. You have all kinds of options on this. So I want you to do the taco flavoring, the package of taco meat that appeals to you. So whatever you think you're going to use most and enjoy. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to use this taco seasoning. I'm going to add some dry minced onion. I'm going to use, we're on the pantry challenge today, so I have some cans of Rotel that need to get used up. So I'm going to use a couple of those today, and depending how many green chilies I find in there, I may add an extra can of green chilies just because I really like that flavor in a taco meat. I am not going to add salsa today because I really like to slather my meal once it's finished with salsa, and we go through so much salsa in this house. So I'm going to hang on to every last jar for kind of at the moment eating, if you will. But if you have home canned salsa or commercially canned jarred salsa, it doesn't matter. Use what you have, use what you like. That's the most important thing. All right, the next thing before we start cooking, I am going to mostly use these wide mouth pint jars. Now this, because it's a crumbled ground beef, you can use the regular mouth pint jars if you wish. Some meats that makes it very difficult to get out. This is crumbled, but anyway, I'm going to use these because I have plenty of them today. Now, David can sometimes, my husband can sometimes go through an entire jar by himself. So if left to his own devices, he would eat through the whole jar. But it also works extremely well when I'm in charge of dinner. He gets half of it on his taco salad, and I get half of it in a bowl, or whatever it is I'm going to do. So while I'm thinking about it, there's one other way that I like to serve this. I've only seen it at one Mexican restaurant that we used to go to in Atlanta. And in their queso, if they would bring you a big bowl of queso for dipping, they had taco meat in there. It was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. So you could take half a jar of this and put it in that. Or if you're going to a party and you've got a crock pot and you've got your queso melting in the crock pot and you dump in a whole jar of this, you will be the hit of the party. So I'm going to can mostly in pints today. If I have any left over, because of my numbers are kind of odd here in my ground beef, I'm going to put some in a half pint. If I were just making this for myself, I would do this in half pints. So if you're going to do half pints, the only thing you have to think about is making sure that they don't float when you get them into the canner. So my suggestion would be to make sure you know how much water your canner is going to take. Don't put it in yet. Put your jars all in the bottom of the canner, and then you can put an extra rack on top, and then maybe put a short stack jar of water on top of that to weight it down, and then add your water to your canner. Otherwise, your jars, they're just not going to be heavy enough in these little half pint size to not float. So something to keep in mind. If you've got questions about that, let me know. We can talk about it in some future video, and I'll just can everything in half pints. All right, so let's get started. I have my meat all defrosted. You see, I was able to get this on sale, which is always my favorite thing to do. So I pulled these out of the freezer as we are working on our pantry challenge. I'm trying to get everything out of there I possibly can. It has been defrosted, so I'm going to get this open and into the pot so we can start cooking it up. So this is going to be a hot pack today, technically speaking, but because I'm not using a bunch of hot liquid, I'm not so worried about having the jars up to the same temperature and the can of water up to the same temperature. I'm just basically putting hot meat in here. It'll be a little bit of liquid, but not a whole lot. All right, so I'm going to clean up some of the things I'm not using here, and then we're going to get started. I'm going to get this beef into the pot. I'll bring you around and we'll start breaking it up and get going. All 5 pounds of ground beef in here. I added just a smidge of avocado oil to the bottom of the pan to make sure that it didn't stick, but ground meat and stainless steel, it'll probably stick a little bit anyway. So all I want to do is really cook this very lightly and crumble it up. And then I want to add my seasonings. And then we're going to add, you know, when you make tacos just for dinner, right? And you add your taco seasoning, and then you add some water, and you let it just kind of simmer in there for about 20 minutes, and then you take the lid off and make sure that the water has evaporated. We're going to let most of that simmering happen in the canner. So what I want to do is get it thoroughly mixed in. I want to add enough water, but bit by bit, to get it incorporated, get it loose, give it something to dissolve into. But I don't want to cook this like for the full 20 minutes or something before I put it in the canner. So this is going to go very quickly. I have all my jars washed and ready to go. All right, so I'm just going to let this cook down a little bit. I'll bring you back when I think it's ready to go. We'll talk about the amount of fat that's still in there and whether or not I feel like I need to drain any off. We'll get our seasonings added, and then we'll kind of gently add the water until we get it to the right consistency. And then we're ready to jar it up. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, it's been 7 or 8 minutes, and we are now at the stage where I like to add all the seasonings and additional ingredients. So as you can see, it's at the point where it's just that lovely gray, right? But there's still a little bit that's pink in here. It's not all completely what I would call browned, but it is at a good stage for us to add the seasonings and let it finish getting cooked before we put it in there. All right, so I have 2 jars of Rotel I'm going to add. I think that's going to be enough, but we'll see. And I'm just going to add the liquid, and that'll be part of our liquid in terms of getting this going. I don't like it when they put in the little, I don't know, the little tops or whatever of the tomatoes, the stem end of the tomato, but that's all right. Nobody asked me. And then I'm going to use a couple tablespoons of the minced onions. Now my taco seasoning, the first ingredient on it is salt, so I am not going to add any more salt. I might add some more green chilies though, we'll see. Taco meat. So you want about 2 tablespoons per pound, taco seasoning, I'm sorry, 2 tablespoons per pound. So I would need about 10 tablespoons, so that's half a cup plus a couple of tablespoons. I think I'm just going to go kind of a mounded half cup, and then we'll taste a little and see before it goes in. All right. So I have some fat down at the bottom up here, but not much. So I am not going to worry about it. That does not bother me at all. Like I said, this was the 93.7. If you start with 80-20 or 85-15 or something, you may want to drain off some of the fat when you get to this stage. Any fat that comes out after this stage, you can certainly leave in there. Yeah, I'm going to need some more taco seasoning. And I think I'm going to add those green chilies as well. All right, so let's get the last couple tablespoons of taco seasoning in here. Now, if you don't like the peppers or tomatoes or anything in your taco meat, that's just fine too. Absolutely fine. You won't fill quite as many jars, but that's okay. You'll have it exactly the way you want it. One of the things I'm planning to grow this year, specifically to use with this, is a bunch of big roasting peppers and poblano peppers. I love to stuff them with this and then put a little grated cheese on top. Throw them in the oven and they're done in, 7 or 8 minutes really. All right, so I'm just going to twirl this around a bit. I don't think I need to add any liquid because I added the liquid from the Rotel. And I still have some of the meat juices in here. Again, not a lot. This is just about ready to go. Yeah, that looks really good to me. So I am going to get an easier scooper to use. Turn this off. Now this is hot, as I mentioned before, but I'm not pouring in a bunch of hot liquid that is going to risk breaking my jar. So I did wash my jars in hot, soapy water, but they're kind of, you know, lukewarm room temperature now. All right. I'm going to get the meat in first, and then we'll come back, and if we want to distribute any of the seasoned liquid, we'll do that. I'm going to go for 1-inch headspace, like we do with any meat. There we go. It looks good. It feels good. It smells delicious. All right, let me get the rest of these filled up. Okay, let me grab another pint. All right, I have one more brand new pint. Washed it up, and let's get it filled. I might actually have a little bit left that I will make for David's lunch. Not much. All right, you can see, this is what I have. You can't see it all, can you? Okay, so this is all I have left. That was 5 pounds of ground beef. I'm going to top off a couple of these jars that I think are a little light. And then the rest will go on a salad for David today. All right, so debubble here just a bit. All right, I'm going to clean up these rims and get them ready to go. Some white vinegar on my little towel here to make sure that there wasn't any meat grease or anything there on top. Let me grab the lids. I don't know which was my new jar, but it's going to get a new ball lid instead of my regular 4 jars lids. Right. These are going to go in the pressure canner. 10 pounds of pressure, of course, if you're below 1,000 feet. I always have a chart. in my videos, down in the description below the video itself, that gives you the altitude adjustments for both water bath canning and pressure canning. So if you ever have any question about that, make sure you check it out. And if you move, make sure you double check your new elevation. We moved from Atlanta to Tennessee, and I figured, I don't know why I figured, but I did. I kind of thought that we would be at a higher elevation here, but we are not. We are in fact at a lower elevation by a decent amount. So I have gone from the over 1,000 feet in Atlanta to under 1,000 feet here in Tennessee. So I've had to make all of my adjustments, or just adjust back down in canning. Okay, so let's get these in the canner. I'll bring you over. I have that set up. And I don't have a whole lot left for David's lunch, but that's okay. He'll be happy. He's already, there you go. He's already hollered down from upstairs that it smells good. So he must have heard his name mentioned. Okay, let's get these in the canner. I'll bring you over here. Okay, I'm going to use the electric pressure canner today. It's become my go-to, honestly, before I even pull out the All-American that goes on the stove, because this allows me to go do whatever else in the world I want to do, which is fantastic. I don't have to sit here and listen to it the whole time. There are only a couple of beeps to which I need to respond and do a couple of things. All right, so I'm going to get it ready to go. So it comes out pressure can. So I'm going to say, yes, I want a pressure can. I'm going to set my timer for 75 minutes, because I'm doing pints of meat, 75 minutes. I'm going to hit yes. I'm going to insert the jars. Now it's going to expect to warm them up. That's fine. My jars are already warm. My water's already kind of a lukewarm. So we'll just let it think it's doing what it wants to do. All right, I can fit 7 of these in here, so this is perfect. Okay, everybody's in. I'm going to get the lid on. You know, I used to leave this on and just turn to the little vent thing, but I find it's just easier to take it off and wait till it tells me to put it on. So we'll close this up. Jars are inserted. Now, it's going to bring the water up to temperature, and then it's going to tell me to fill the jars. Well, you and I both know the jars are already filled. The canner doesn't know that. So as soon as it tells me to fill the jars, I'm just going to hit that button and say, yes, I've done so. And then it'll bring it up to temperature, get to the point where it can vent for 10 minutes, and then it'll beep at me again and say, put the cap on, or the regulator on, whatever they call this. So that's what I'll do. And then next thing you know, it'll beep and tell me it's done, and I'll come back and show you how it looks coming out. All right, since you're still here watching the canner, it has just beeped to tell me that I now need to fill the jars. So we're just going to say, okay, done. And that's it. Now it's going to heat them, and then after it's blown its steam for 10 minutes, it'll tell me to put the regulator on, and we are off to the races. It'll do everything else from here on out for itself, which is one of the many reasons I love this machine. I'll be back to show you these as soon as they come out. Since I didn't have my prop for the beginning of the video, we'll see it at the end. I hope that this is something you're going to want to put on your shelf. I know you will use it all the time. There are so many different ways. In fact, maybe I'll link a couple of things. I'll do some Google searches or Pinterest searches or something and link some ideas down below just to kind of get you started. But I know you've probably come up with a list of 20 things to do with it just while you were watching the video. So this is a great one. I hope you make it. If you do, please let me know. And if you liked the video, please hit that little like button. And if you're not yet subscribed, for heaven's sakes, please subscribe. So I'll be back to show you this when it comes out, and then I will see you next week. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'm so glad you were here to join me. And for those of you who've been around for a while, you know that I'm in the middle of a kitchen remodel. I am getting closer. I expected to be a lot closer last week, but it didn't quite happen. We had a few hiccups. So it'll be a few weeks still, I think, but I'm looking forward to showing you what we've done here. It has really improved the efficiency of what this kitchen used to be. I'm not, well, I am still kind of running all over the place because half my stuff is still on the dining room table waiting to be put away because the drawers aren't finished, the cabinet doors aren't in. There's still a little bit of dust, but we are almost there, and I am just so grateful that it has come along as well as it has. So have a great week, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.